We'll now continue with a completely different topic, a topic we skipped in the last course module. For this, we'll dive into the settings once again, and in here, we'll now activate remix mode and at the same time high variation mode. Remix mode is all about changing prompts, parameters, and so on between different variations of the images that you create. And to make sure remix mode works as intended, we have to activate high variation mode. Now the thing about remix mode is that according to my experience, it doesn't always work as intended. So whilst in theory it sounds great to be able to change images on the fly between different variations and so on, I think that remix mode still is in quite early stages and has its flaws. But I want to show you this feature, and I also have one specific application area where I think that remix mode actually makes a lot of sense. For this, make sure to have my settings here, and now we'll just add a new prompt. This prompt will simply be the creation of the following image, so I want to have a Pixar animation of a garden. A house should be in the background. And the atmosphere should be cute and happy, and I want to have an aspect ratio of 16:10. Nothing special so far, we'll just create these images now. Remix mode doesn't affect this creation at this stage. These images look quite decent, and now this will be the base to continue our work, because that's where remix comes into play. Because instead of just having this empty garden, I can now add a dog to my image, for example, whilst maintaining or keeping the overall style, the scenery, and so on. I will recreate images, so I won't get the exact same images, but the overall look and feel should be the same. For this, I have to select one of these images. Let's maybe take the second one here. So we will create a variation of image 2. And now with the activated remix mode, we get this pop-up, which we know from the last module when we added a custom zoom to a variation. We cannot delete the entire prompt though. So if you would just delete this and add something like a dog, this won't work. So you have to keep the initial prompt, and whilst you can delete some parts of the prompt, for example this cute and happy, we can omit this now as it should be part of the image. We have to keep the aspect ratio, for example, and I would also keep this Pixar animation style to ensure Midjourney doesn't do something crazy about this now whilst creating the variation. We can now edit this prompt though by adding a dog here lying in the garden. And now, if this works as intended, we should see a similar looking image or 4 images with a dog in the garden instead of having this empty image here. And I think this worked quite well. If we have a look at our image 2, so the initial image our variation was based on, this one right here, and now check our results that we got, these don't look too bad, I would say. Especially image number 4 has a similar looking house actually. It still has this Pixar animation look. The dog is placed correctly here in the garden, and it's a happy and cute looking dog in the end. So the overall look and feel was maintained, but now we could add our dog to the scenery. Now of course we could use the same image style now by again referring to the second image of the initially created grid. And now instead of adding a dog, we'll add a cat that is maybe standing in the garden. We can again omit the attributes describing the mood of the image. And now we should get 4 images in a similar setting with a cat standing in the garden. And once again, this worked quite well. The house and the setting look a bit different now, I must admit, but the overall look and style still is according to our initial second image here. And if we have a closer look, we see that the mood is still happy, the cat is smiling. Well, the cat is rather sitting than standing, but it is what it is. But generally, by using Remix like this, you can define a core setting for your images and then add certain objects, or in this case animals, to your images. And let's now try what happens if we just take this prompt here. So not using Remix, but by just adding it as a normal prompt, and doing the same thing for our cat. So I'll add this prompt here. Then we see some important things. One thing is that especially the dog still has this happy and cute smile, so this was something that we didn't have to add right here in this case. The cat at the same time doesn't look that happy, so here the mood should have been described in more detail. We also have different styles in the created images, so if you compare this image here, for example, so image 3 with the dog, with image 1 with the cat, that's a Pixar animation look, but a totally different environment and feeling. And more importantly, the general perspective, the camera angle, is completely different. In our remix pictures, the initial camera angle was maintained, so we got the garden and the house in the background, and the animal is not the core focus of the image. Whilst with our last prompts, the animals are way bigger, way more zoomed in, and simply the core focus of these images. So with this remix feature, you have more control about your environment, about the general setting that you want to have for your images. So if you want to create a series of images, for example, that should maintain the core style and look, then Remix is a great option to do so. It still has its flaws though, I mentioned that, so it doesn't always work perfectly, but specifically for situations like the ones we had here in this lecture, Remix is a great additional feature Midjourney ships with.